everybody, Kurt and Rob with Two Brothers Hobby, and we're here today with the EP Falcon ARF kit from Carl Goldberg Classics, put out by Great Plains. Now this is a return of a very well-established older plane, put out in the 60s, correct?
Yes.
It
was in kit form. It was a build-up balsa.
Correct, with a glow power plant.
Yes.
So now we see it come out in EPP foam.
Correct.
With electric power plant.
And
same size as the Junior Falcon, correct?
Yes, it's the same size. They've kept the dimensions pretty close to the original.
Okay. You're going to do the build on this, so why don't you walk us through what this ARF kit involves? And this is a true ARF as
sure
well.
It is.
It's a lot of small pieces. 2 hours approximate assembly.
I'd say if you're an experienced builder, familiar, got some kits under your belt, yeah, you can probably whip this out in a couple hours. Somebody just getting into the hobby, this would be a good kit to start with as a true ARF.
Oh yeah.
There are a lot of things that come with an ARF that are standard as far as some cutting of the structure to fit wings and such in. But you're going to want to take your time. You probably have 4 to 5 hours, I would think, in this.
Okay, for a new builder.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to do the assembly of the ARF kit. So why don't you walk us through all the main components and major steps?
Okay. Starting with the main wing, we've got the ailerons already hinged for us and the appropriate linkage for that. We've got a servo tray for the aileron servo. Now this kit comes with a wing stiffener. This piece right here. This is recommended for outdoor use and for more aerobatic maneuvers. It adds a lot of strength to the wing, but it also provides a nice place for the rubber bands to go across so you're not denting your wing up.
Yeah, we saw that in our Flylight build. Actually,
yes.
They had that on there as well. Another EPP foam plane really strengthens that wing a lot.
Yeah, it does, and I think it has a lot to do with keeping the wing in decent shape too when you go through those maneuvers so rubber bands aren't yanking and pulling and putting big dents in it. The fuselage has the firewall already installed in it to accept our outrunner motor. Steerable nose wheel is installed. You'll have to hook the linkage up inside.
You know, tricycle landing gear with steerable nose wheel too makes this a perfect trainer platform.
Definitely.
Control. So much easier to control a tricycle landing gear plane on the ground for a beginner, don't you think?
Yes, I agree. On the inside, we've got the servo area here. You'll have a tray that mounts in there with the servos on it. Our control rods are already installed. And on the tail, you'll notice there's a couple sections here that we'll have to cut out to accept the tail feathers. As we mentioned a little earlier. So those are some things that you're going to want to watch for in the instructions. For the newbies, especially someone who hasn't put one together, keep an eye on stuff like that. On the tail surfaces, we've got a familiar look on foamies. We see this a lot now is the interlocking tail surfaces. It goes through a notch in a tab. Now these are going to have to be glued together, and this is EPP foam, so you're going to have to use Foam Safe CA. We're going to be using Bob Smith Industries Super Gold gap filling and thin. We're also going to be using an accelerator. Now, a real quick note on accelerators. We've noticed on some foam planes, if you use too much, one, it generates heat and can cause a melting effect, basically, if you use too much of it. And two, if it runs over top of the graphics or the paint or anything, if you wipe it, a lot of times that'll come off. The accelerator will dissolve the paint. And you don't want to do that on a new model. So just let it air dry if you do happen to get some down there. We've got a couple of parts bags here. We've got some quick links here for the servos, for the control rods. We've got our rubber bands for holding the wings on. We've got the servo tray that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
and
your pilot.
What's that?
Yeah, it's a pilot.
That's a pilot, that's right. And we've got a clear canopy here that'll go on top of the wing. And then we've got a couple of control rods that we have to install. So that wraps it up on this end. Kurt, why don't you tell us what's involved in the radio, what we're going to be putting it in for radio and the electronics.
All right. We'll be using an 8x3.8 slow fly prop from APC. Our power plant is comprised of a 300 milliamp, 7.4 volt 2-cell LiPo from Electrofly. We used all spec components from the manufacturer, so this is the stock recommended setup. An 8 amp brushless electronic speed control from Electrofly as well, their silver series. We'll be slinging our 8x3.8 prop on a 250 Outrunner brushless from Rimfire. Now we've used these on a number of models, Rob. You're familiar with the power. We've only got 10 ounces on this thing all up weight, so it should really whip this model around quite well.
It should be fun.
Yep. And we've got a small servo extension for the aileron servo, some adhesive, two-sided sticky tape, and then also some self-adhesive Velcro for our battery to get everything mounted inside. And we're going to be using an R6004FF receiver from Futaba. This is a 2.4 gig fast receiver, and this is a 4-channel plane, so we'll be using some S3114 Futaba servos. These are about 20 ounces of torque at 4.8 volts. Should be plenty of power, again, for the size of our model. And then we'll be using the Futaba T8FG transmitter, which completes our fast radio system. We've used the T8FG. Of course, I guess I would say gross overkill for this application, but it's not, because with it being a computer radio, you can really get into the expos and the dual rates and do some of the nice things that just level out the flying characteristics and make it a real joy. So the 8FG has given us that flexibility on a number of our test models. So that'll be our solution again for the EP Falcon. So I guess our next step is to put it all together, take it out, and fly it. You're going to do the assembly, like you said, maybe a couple hours, 2.5 hours
Yeah,
to put it together?
I would think no more than a couple hours for this. And you know, this will be interesting because being a 4-channel trainer, it's going to be interesting to see how well this wing handle, the undercamber wing handles the and there is some dihedral this plane. It's not a real sharp dihedral, but there's dihedral, undercamber, ailerons.
Yeah.
Usually not a good mix, but it's going to be interesting to see how this handles.
It requires, I think, a very effective airfoil to be
able
to handle all of that. So I'm sure with it being Carl Goldberg, though, this is not an unknown brand.
I can guarantee it's
I have
not.
the highest of hopes. So we'll put it to the test and see how it handles maybe some indoor and outdoor flight. We'll see what sites we have accessible to us. So, and then we'll come back with a review.